May the glory of my lord live forever. Seia knelt on the ground and swore an oath. Seia, please rise. You are my believer and my child. Thank you for the gift, master. Seia stood up, her heart pounding. Zeus' god-king essence was transforming her, and her heart was filling with admiration for Zeus. I want to ask you about the treasure of the gods. Of course, my master. Seia nodded. No one knows the origin of the gods' treasure better than the Naga. In the beginning, heaven and earth were chaos. From this chaos, the prime god, Chaos, was born. The god of chaos gave birth to three gods: Eternal Night, Ananke, the goddess of destiny, Tartarus, the embodiment of the abyss, and Gaia, the earth mother. Gaia gave birth to Uranus, and after that, the events Zeus had witnessed occurred. Cronus killed his father, separated heaven and earth, and became the first god-king. When Chaos gave birth to Ananke, the breath of chaos filled the sky, condensing into a mirror, a sword, and a castle. When Chaos gave birth to Tartarus, the breath of chaos condensed into a knight, 3 apostles, and 7 inner demons. Finally, when Chaos gave birth to Gaia, the breath of chaos condensed into 11 golden seeds and scattered across the world. 4 of these seeds were consumed by Gaia, becoming her eternal source of power. The remaining 7 seeds could be planted with 7 gods. These were 3 trees, 3 flowers, and 1 grass. The 3 trees are the golden apple tree, the golden olive tree, and the golden fig tree. The golden apple contains immense divine power, capable of advancing an ordinary creature to a high god. The golden olive is the ultimate healing fruit. A drop of holy oil from it can restore divine power, heal a broken body, and resurrect the dead. The golden fig can create duplicates, triplicates, and even tenfold bodies, with consciousness divided among them. The main body can control these clones with a thought. What about the 3 flowers? The 3 flowers are the golden narcissus, the golden laurel, and the golden iris. The golden narcissus, when mature, can temporarily increase a god's speed, strength, divine power, and divine senses tenfold. The golden laurel is enchanting and can bewitch souls. Its flower language speaks of hope blooming on the execution ground. Using the golden laurel can give gods a powerful influence, convincing almost all ordinary creatures to give everything they have and pray for the god's protection. The golden iris is the epitome of speed. As its flower language says, "The road is difficult, but those who walk will reach their destination." Using it, gods can touch the edge of time, move fast enough to reverse it, communicate with the dead in the underworld, and lead souls back from the rainbow bridge. And what about the golden thorn? The last plant is the golden thorn. With numerous spines, it symbolizes the way of thorns, a journey of glory and suffering. The golden thorn is both offensive and defensive. If implanted into the source of divine power, it will return any damage received tenfold to the enemy. Oh, isn't this just anti-armor? Zeus couldn't help but smile. Can you still sense the presence of the god's treasure? Can you find the other golden seeds? Seia suddenly raised her head, her pupils dilated, full of fanaticism. Yes. My God, my Lord. Those golden seeds call to me from dark corners. Their ancient voices are faint but extremely clear. I have been imprisoned by the great serpent for 100 years. If it weren't for that inner voice, reminding me of my unfinished mission, I would have perished long ago. There was light in Seia's eyes. My Lord, I will go to the ends of the earth and lead my people to find the treasure. I will dedicate it to you, asking only for your protection. Zeus nodded, and a holy bell appeared in his hands, unleashing ancient power. Seia, you are my first believer, and I will help you. The ancient power, rich and tangible, surged around Seia. Divine light soared into the sky. Seia's source of divine power was revealed. The source of divine power is the essence of the gods, the embodiment of their divine strength. Just as Zeus's divine power source is countless violent black thunders, Mateti's is 2 life-giving springs, and Uranome's is a pasture with the tree of no worries. Seia's source of divine power is a dark green jewel like Naga dragon. The holy bell of awakening sounded, resonating in Seia's heart. Suddenly, the Naga dragon appeared. Violent divine power erupted from Seia's body. Om! A high-pitched, excited dragon's cry echoed. The majestic Naga dragon roamed the hall, its scales bursting with dazzling light. After a while, The dragon's scales fell off like jade rain. The scale-less Naga dragon was pure white, with golden whiskers. It was magnificent and extraordinary. One step to godhood. Zeus nodded. Seia, trapped at the 9th rank of lower god for 100 years, now ascended to the rank of middle god. And the terrifying aura emanating from her was far superior to the average middle god. Moments later, the Naga dragon disappeared, revealing Seia. She wore a stunning white gown, radiant and breathtakingly beautiful. Seia's face was full of joy and gratitude. She stepped forward and knelt before Zeus. "Thank you, Lord, for giving me new life. I will be my Lord's eyes and fangs, gaining greater glory in the world for you." After bidding farewell to Zeus, Seia led dozens of Naga guards and headed towards the end of the ocean. There is a strong fluctuation of the power of the treasure of the gods. Seia vowed to enshrine the excavated treasure to Zeus. The original Naga guards in Seia were all controlled by the big snake, and they were all killed by Zeus. But that's not a big deal. Seia is the queen of the Naga, and the Naga guards are all her children. Her gaze suddenly became dull, as if her soul had been pulled away. Her originally delicate and beautiful face became a little ferocious. Her mouth opened unbelievably wide, and then giant eggs spit out from her mouth. The giant egg shattered in a short time, and a Naga guard with a snake-tailed body and a terrifying face was born. Zeus, who saw this scene, was surprised at first, and then calmed down. Although Seia has a delicate and beautiful face, she is a Naga after all, and she cannot be considered pure just because of her appearance. Naga is a brutal and bloody race. After Seia left, Zeus stepped out of the serpent's palace. Outside the palace, hundreds of mermaids gathered together. When they saw Zeus, they prostrated themselves on the ground. "That's right," Zeus nodded, knowing that they would not leave easily. The beautiful mermaid who was punished before, Luju, raised her head, and she said timidly, "Great God. My name is Luju. You saved my life from the guards of Naga just now, but..." Luju hesitated for a moment. "Great God, please have pity on us and help us again. The guards of Orochi and Naga are dead, you are free, how can I help you again?" Luzu bit her lip and said timidly, "Great God. We lived on aquatic plants and lived in shells, but hundreds of years ago, the big snake and his Naga guards invaded our home and enslaved us. He forcing us to take his venom. Many sisters couldn't bear it and died on the spot, but we who survived were horrified to find that we couldn't do without the venom. We need to take the venom on a regular basis, otherwise there will be overwhelming pain in the stomach. There is no other pain in the world comparable to it. Therefore, we are extremely eager for the snake's venom and can only be enslaved by him. Now that the big snake is dead, what should we do without the venom? Great God," Luju's eyes were full of desire. "I feel that you have a trace of the big snake's venom on your body. Can you take us in? We willing to be driven by you." "Sure enough." Zeus nodded. "The snake's venom is a tool to control the mermaid. This can be exploited. In this way, the mermaid will be extremely loyal." Zeus plans to choose one of these mermaids as his personal bodyguard. The divine power of the bodyguard does not need to be very strong, not to mention that Zeus has the holy bell of awakening and many source stones of divine power, so it is not difficult to cultivate a high god. A bodyguard requires uncompromising loyalty. Save the lives of this group of mermaids by yourself, let them believe in themselves, and then control them with venom. Triple insurance, she will be the most loyal guard. Zeus nodded. "Humble mermaid, I accept your request. Now, I ask you to rebel against God and believe in me." Drop. The task has been completed, and you have obtained 10 pieces of the source stone of supreme divine power. At this point, the choice to go to Orochi's palace is complete. Zeus turned into a golden eagle and flew back to Sea God Island. Zeus made the group of mermaids abandon their belief in Cronus and turn to himself. There are not enough of them, so they cannot be rewarded for the next stage. However, the conversion of Shah gave Zeus a reward of 100 supreme source stones of divine power. Zeus placed the mermaids in his thundercloud and handed them over to Mateti. Mateti will use the power of his own source of divine power, the fountain of life, to heal the merfolk's thirst for venom and set them free. In addition to a mermaid, she will become Zeus's personal bodyguard. Mateti will choose for Zeus, and Zeus believes that she will choose the most suitable candidate. Mateti's divine power has stabilized, and the brilliance of the poisonous stone in the source of divine power is completely restrained. Zeus, who returned to Sea God Island, put all his energy into cultivation. The time to confront Cronus is getting closer. In this way, 100 years passed by. One day, Zeus was sitting in his thundercloud, holding a huge source stone of supreme divine power. In the past, Zeus once absorbed a sky garden made of pure divine power. Now, every piece of divine stone contains divine power no less than that of that hanging garden. The majestic divine power was extracted from the source stone of divine power by Zeus, and the source stone of divine power gradually dimmed, and finally turned into snow-white ash. The divine power gradually merged into Zeus' divine body. The profound meaning of the divine breath of chaos is as good as it is good, but the divine power required to advance is too majestic and vast. Zeus couldn't help sighing as he looked at the snow-white ash around him. Originally, these hundreds of source stones of the highest divine power were enough for a creature to cultivate to the 9th level of the upper god. But Zeus has absorbed all the source stones of supreme divine power in these 100 years. The rank of god is only from the 3rd rank of the upper god to the 5th rank, which is only one step away from the 6th rank. But Zeus's divine power is extremely abundant, far stronger than that of the general 9th level high god. Zeus closed his eyes and looked at himself. The source of his divine power has advanced from 500,000 to 700,000 violent black thunder. During these 100 years, Zeus has been practicing non-stop. Occasionally, when she came out and saw Mateti, she was buried in the scroll, frowning. Euronome is still cheerful and lively, playing around. In the past 100 years, her divine power has made no progress. Zeus smiled wryly, completely giving up on this aspect. In the source of Zeus's divine power, violent black thunder flew like a dragon, and there was a hazy golden light in it. Above the golden light, stood an ancient tree with a crown like a tourmaline and a trunk like a royal staff. It is full of daisies, cornflowers, and roses, exuding amazing fluctuations in divine power, and colorful rays of light shroud the sacred tree. The sacred tree stood upright in the black thunder, like a fortress in a storm, unmoved. There are 11 golden olives on the tree. The olives are already ripe, and the golden olive oil hangs on the fruit, exuding majestic life force. As long as Zeus is not destroyed, every drop of golden olive oil will bring him back to life. If Zeus is completely destroyed, the golden olive will restore all his power and body. It can be said that Zeus had at least 11 chances to escape the fall of God. Whether it is divine power, divine breath, or divine consciousness, Zeus is already at the peak of history. While Zeus was cultivating the mysteries of the divine breath of chaos and consolidating the divine power in his body, he heard a slight cry from the top of Sea God Island. The cry was full of sadness, resentment and resentment. The voice is very familiar. It was the voice of Mateti. Zeus woke up from his practice. His expression became serious. The voice of Mateti? What's going on? Zeus stepped out of the thundercloud in one step. Brush. A slim girl knelt down. She was wearing a black blouse, holding a spear and holding a sharp blade at her waist, exuding astonishing divine power fluctuations all over her body. Master. The girl knelt down without saying a word. She is the mermaid Green Pearl. Hundreds of years ago, she was rescued by Zeus in the Temple of the Serpent, and then she believed in Zeus and became Zeus's personal guard. From then on, she stayed beside Zeus all the time, ready to sacrifice her life for him at any time to protect the safety of Zeus. Zeus nodded, turned into an eagle, and flew towards the mountain in the center of Sea God Island. Hundreds of years ago, when the serpent proposed marriage, Mateti blew his whistle here with his blood, calling Zeus back. Zeus saw, under the soft moonlight, a girl in red sitting on the top of the mountain. It was Mateti. Mateti. Zeus walked towards her. Mateti turned her head. She has become thinner and weaker over the years, and her divine power has not made much progress. Mateti's eye circles were a little red, and his expression looked very tired, but he was still amazingly beautiful. Her thin body reflected the exquisite curves in the moonlight. I heard your cry. What's the matter? Zeus sat beside her, with the endless sea under the moonlight in front of him. I didn't mean to make you worry. Mateti replied slightly. Her voice was very pleasant, like a clear spring under the moonlight. What's the matter, Mateti? Tell me. I will share it for you, Zeus said firmly to her. Zeus had Themis, Eurynomé, Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, the mermaid Pure Pearl, the green pearl, and the Naga queen Seia. But Mateti is still Zeus's favorite. Mateti's hair was blown by the gentle sea breeze. She turned her head, and took a look at her snow-white arms. Zeus, eat me. What? Zeus was startled. Eat me. Mateti's firm voice echoed in the wind. Zeus, who is familiar with the story of Olympus, of course knows that in the records, Zeus swallowed Mateti alive. For according to the prophecy, Zeus would also be overthrown by his own son, who would become the new king of Olympus. As the time for Mateti to give birth drew closer, Zeus fell into more and more panic and madness. Finally one day, Zeus swallowed Mateti, thinking that this would prevent the prophecy from happening. But the child conceived by Mateti for Zeus is one of the future 12 main gods of Olympus, the god of war, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Her terrifying divine power collided in Zeus's body, which made Zeus have a splitting headache and wailed in the temple of Olympus all day long. Finally one day, Zeus couldn't bear the pain anymore, so he asked Hephaestus, the god of fire, to cut his head with an axe. The shining goddess, Athena, jumped out of the head of Zeus and came down to the world in an invincible posture. This is the recorded story of the birth of Athena, and Mateti is forever united with Zeus. Of course, this is a record, and Zeus never thought of swallowing Mateti, let alone doubting Mateti's loyalty. Mateti, what's wrong with you? Why do you want me to swallow you? Mateti's face under the moonlight was extremely bright and beautiful, making one's heart tremble. Dear husband, my God, I am not crazy, I made this choice out of rationality. Mateti stared at Zeus. She grabbed Zeus' hand and pressed it on her lower abdomen. It is still Athena's terrifying and amazing divine power, which has become even stronger after hundreds of years of gestation. But Zeus frowned. This divine power was not as stable as a mountain like before, but like a sea tide, rising and falling. Yes, my honorable husband. Mateti lowered his eyebrows, as if blaming himself. The original poisonous stone did not damage the source of my divine power, but it hurt my foundation. Can't go any further. She smiled wryly, but how can a mother of the first rank of a high god give birth to an excellent child? My physical condition is such that I can no longer give birth to a powerful child for you. So you have to swallow me and make you and me into one. My book of wisdom will still be used by you, and your divine body will help conceive our child, and she will appear in the world in an incomparably glorious manner, becoming your mighty help. What about you? What about your soul? When I become one with you, my soul will sleep, but you can still see me in your dreams. Zeus, the war is coming. In the sea breeze, Mateti tightly grasped Zeus's hand. My combat strength is insufficient, and I will become your burden. Swallow me, give birth to a strong child, and go to gain your authority. Mateti put a dark green stone in Zeus' hand. This is the original poisonous stone. Don't worry, its brilliance has been completely restrained, and the poison will not be exposed. Mateti looked gently into Zeus' eyes. I still remember the night you came to Sea God Island. I was still a child at that time. It was a rainy night, a golden light shining like thunder, flying from a distance. It was Grandma, in her arms at that time. You were so young, but you already possessed the supernatural power of the middle god, and the divine power of the future king of gods and the lord of the kingdom of heaven was rolling and undulating on your body. Mateti lowered his eyes deeply and looked at the sea. We grew up together, and I fell in love with you more and more. I knew you would become the king of gods, and I swore to the ocean that I would do my best to help you, climb to the top of Olympus, and gain your power. Mateti leaned over and kissed Zeus' forehead deeply, and a message flowed into Zeus's mind. Spices, powdered medicine, cinnamon leaves, gem powder, reed ash, whalebone, snake gall. Using these auxiliary materials as a guide, refine the original poisonous stone, and you will get the god meteor medicine. Over the years, I have compiled various ancient books, and today I finally found this prescription. Cronus' divine power is too terrifying. This medicine will not make him fall, but it will make him spit out all your brothers and sisters. Zeus nodded and Cronus swallowed Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Zeus is the sixth child of Cronus and the second generation of Demeter. In the records, the elder sister Hestia is weak, and she becomes the god of the hearth and the god of the family. Demeter is the goddess of agriculture, and Hera is the queen of heaven. They both later became the wives of Zeus. Hades became the king of the underworld, Poseidon became the lord of the sea, and Zeus ruled the sky and the earth. Your brothers and sisters will help you, and that will be a great help. There is also a god, who is at your disposal. Who? The Book of Wisdom behind Mateti flipped page by page. The Pillar of the West, the second son of Iapetus and Clymene, the goddess of fame, Prometheus. Prometheus. Zeus nodded. Zeus, who was familiar with Greek mythology, certainly knew him. Prometheus has always been in the court of Cronus, with high authority. However, Prometheus was dissatisfied with Cronus. This is not only because the world under the rule of Cronus is in chaos, but also because Prometheus has great ambitions. He also wants to win the authority of the kingdom of heaven and shepherd the creatures in the world. He joined Zeus in the War of the Titans, where Zeus overthrew Cronus, but after the war, he would betray Zeus, and Zeus had to lock him up on a high mountain and let the eagle eat his liver every day. But now, the two sides share a common interest, which is to overthrow the court of Cronus. Zeus, I've told you everything I want to say. Mateti bit her lip with red eyes. Dear husband, I know that you and Themis held the first wedding between heaven and earth, but I have no title yet. I don't care about those false names, I have no demands on you, but whenever I think of my supernatural power except, the mother who carried the iron chain and went to Olympus to atone for her sins felt a twinge of pain in her heart. When you get the throne of God King, you must save her, okay? Mateti stretched out her snow-white arm again, and the bright red blood of the gods flowed from that arm. Swallow me, Zeus. Drip. Selection is on. Option 1. Swallowing Mateti doubles the divine power, divine breath, and divine consciousness, and obtains the Book of Wisdom. Option 2. Refuse to swallow Mateti. Obtain the secret realm, Crimson Sea. The moment the options appeared, Zeus smiled. He would not choose to swallow Mateti, no matter how precious the reward was. I choose option 2, Zeus said silently in his heart. Drop. You get the secret, Crimson Sea. Zeus, don't hesitate, swallow me. No, Mateti opened her beautiful eyes wide. Zeus. Why? There is no reason. I love you, Mateti, so I will never make that choice. Zeus looked at Mateti tenderly. I will never let Mateti down. Themis is the future goddess of law. I must make her a member of my court. As for your status. A scroll filled with the atmosphere of the ocean appeared in Zeus' hands. This is the scroll that the sea god couple left him. This is the aura of father and mother. Mateti's eyes widened in surprise. She stroked the scroll lightly, her eyes suddenly turned red. I haven't felt their aura for a long time. Yes, on the night that the gargoyles of Cronus came, they left this scroll to Eurynome, and she gave it to me. The great sea god couple promised you and Eurynome to me, but there are prerequisites. The divine power of Zeus was injected into the scroll, and the figures of Themis and Oceanus reappeared. Zeus, among my 3,000 daughters, our eldest daughter Mateti and youngest daughter Eurynome are the ones we love the most. I know that they are also in love with you. Zeus, here, we will betroth them to you together. When you ascended to the throne of God King, may you give them peace and happiness. Zeus took out Oceanus' scepter of the sea and handed it to Mateti. This is the scepter given to me by Ocean God as a proof of entrustment. Father, mother, daughter misses you. After reading the contents of the scroll, Mateti burst into tears. At the last moment, the great Poseidon couple still didn't forget their daughter, you and Eurynome. Zeus gently took Mateti by the arm. I have sworn that the rainbow light in the sky has witnessed my death. Vow. I will take the throne of God King, and then, I will hold a grand wedding ceremony for you and Eurynome. So, Zeus smiled, I will never swallow you, not now, nor in the future, ever. My God King. Mateti's eyes were full of tears, and his heart was filled with sadness and joy, with 10,000 emotions rippling in his heart. She had already made up her mind to sacrifice, but when she heard that her parents had betrothed herself to Zeus, her joy surged in her heart like a tidal wave. Under the great sadness and joy, my mind was a little confused. Little fool, are you still the goddess of wisdom? Shouldn't you be as calm as water afterward, even if the world collapses in front of you? Why are you like this in front of Zeus? Mateti thought silently. Zeus. Mateti held Zeus' hand, and couldn't help turning into a pool of clear springs, enveloping Zeus. After one night, the sea was calm. Zeus sits in his thundercloud. Mateti is still asleep. Secret realm. Crimson sea. What's this? Zeus summoned the rewards he got yesterday. Couldn't check it out yesterday. This is a piece of ruby, an incomparably thick red color, like a piece of flowing blood of an ancient god, from which majestic power erupts, exuding an ancient and mysterious aura. Among the gems, there is a sea of red. Secret realm, the Red Sea. Before the world was created, there was only chaos. Chaos condensed to form the first main god in the world, Chaos, the god of chaos. She was born in the chaos, took a step, and a red sea emerged under her feet, in which countless seeds of primitive creatures were bred. They devoured the energy in the sea and gradually grew into mermaids, sirens, nymphs, dryads, and centaurs. Sprite. This is the sea when a small piece of heaven and earth was created. The ancestors of countless native creatures evolved and multiplied by relying on the power in the Red Sea. What a terrifying power is contained here. Zeus's body was full of thunder, and the source of his divine power appeared, and 700,000 black thunderbolts flew like a dragon, and a golden olive tree stood among them. I can implant it into my source of divine power. Zeus swallowed the crimson sea in one gulp. All of a sudden, a bright red sea appeared in the source of his divine power, and the thunder roared together, as if the heaven and the earth were singing their praises. Zeus's blonde hair fluttered, and red light appeared in his eyes. A terrifying divine power rushed from Zeus's body, shining a red beam of thunder, flying straight into the sky. On the Red Sea, there are 700,000 black thunders shining, and a golden sacred tree stands like a fortress in a storm. Suddenly, Zeus' divine power has doubled. Moreover, the Red Sea seemed to be washing against Zeus's thunder, and the violent breath in the black thunder decreased slightly, the black gradually receded, the thunder gradually returned to gold, and the brilliance became more restrained. This crimson sea seems to be still evolving my thunder, worthy of being a fetish. Zeus tried his best to control the source of his divine power, slowly digesting the majestic divine power contained in the period. After 100 days, Zeus opened his eyes suddenly. He opened his palm, and a golden thunder emerged from his palm, transforming into a perfect cube. Zeus's thunder, the black faded, turned into gold, 700,000 thunders, restrained into a solid body, more than doubled the divine power. In this way, the battle with Cronus adds another point to the chance of winning. Zeus clenched his fists, and at this moment, a weak heat surged into Zeus' body. In the dark, he heard the voice of prayer. May the glory of my Lord Zeus be eternal. In the dark, there is a pious voice of prayer. May the glory of my Lord Zeus last forever. After Zeus made a contract with his believers, every time a believer prayed, Zeus' divine power would increase a little. Accumulating over a long period of time is also a huge improvement. After believers believe in the gods, they will gain a connection with the gods. The prayers of believers will be heard by the gods, and the sacrifices offered by believers will be received by the gods. The gods will also send down blessings and revelations for believers, so that they can gain inner peace and joy. A phantom appeared in Zeus' thundercloud. In the phantom, it was the Naga queen Seia. Seia was wearing a neat white blouse, and was kneeling in front of the prayer platform, praying devoutly to her god king. Every time a believer prays, the gods will hear it, and Zeus is no exception. But he rarely responds to believers. But this time was different. Zeus's fingertips flashed lightning, and through the phantom, it was transmitted to Seia's mind. God. My god king responded to me. Seia was taken aback for a moment, and then showed an ecstatic expression. She looked in the direction of Zeus and clasped her hands together. God king, your devout believer is here. What instructions do you have? I will die for the sake of the greater glory of the god king. Since Seia left, she prayed non-stop all day long, but she never got a response from Zeus. The appearance of the gods today made her ecstatic. A piece of information was sent to Seia's mind. Spices, powdered medicine, cinnamon leaves, gem powder, reed ash, whalebone, snake gall. Collect these materials for me, and you will be blessed by God. Zeus' majestic voice sounded in Seia's mind. Your order has been received. I will not disappoint you, may the glory of the Lord last forever. Ya's white finger points to her heart, solemnly swearing. As a believer, she would not ask God's intention, why Zeus wanted these materials, because God's will is unpredictable. All she has to do is please her God. There are more than 13 kinds of spices, 7 of which are around us. Rosemary, thyme, and oregano can be mined in the green mountains far away. Red, green, blue, purple, yellow, and 5-color gemstones are also available, ground into fine of the powder, presented to the gods. The words of the whalebone. As a Naga tribe, Sha is the best at digging treasures. Their footprints are all over the entire god's domain. It is most suitable for them to collect materials. May the glory of my Lord be forever. Another voice of prayer sounded, and the weak but pure and true divine power poured into Zeus' divine body. It is a mermaid pure pearl. After she received Zeus' order to conquer the mermaid group, she hadn't seen each other for hundreds of years. Of course, Zeus rarely answered her prayers. In the name of Zeus, my Lord God King, please let your thunder shine above me, my family, and my friends. You are my refuge, my light, my bread and salt, and my rock. Belief in you is not a momentary choice, but a lifelong oath. May the glory of my King last forever. In the Phantom, a beautiful girl holds a war bow and kneels piously in front of the prayer platform. An exquisitely carved bronze and gold statue of Zeus is placed on the prayer platform, covered with green water plants and flowers. There are 12 huge white sea snakes surrounding the girl, prostrate on the ground. Beside the girl, there is also a crown decorated with coral, shells, and aquatic plants, and inlaid with a sapphire. She was the pure pearl of the mermaid rescued by Zeus from an unfair trial 100 years ago. Queen, my mother, the prayer is over, are you still kneeling here? A beautiful mermaid girl came over, with a short sword pinned to her waist, her long hair was barefoot, and her golden hair was floating in the water. She was the daughter of Chunju at the beginning, named Junju, and she has grown up. That trial started from fighting for her. The prayer was over long ago, but Chunju remained silent. She bowed her head in the direction of Zeus. Mom, why don't you take care of me? Seeing that Chunju was unmoved, Junju went over and hugged her shoulders, as if acting like a baby. Mom. My child, Chunju gently pulled her daughter over, looking at the statue of Zeus in front of the altar. Many years ago, after saying goodbye to the God King, I never saw him again. I prayed non-stop every day, but I never got a response from him. Chunju smiled wryly, her eyes full of worry. Has my God abandoned me? Or, she lowered her head, looking at the huge bow in her hand. Or is it because, after so many years, I still haven't completed the mission given to me by the God King, which offended God? The huge bow in her hand rattled. Mom. Junju knelt obediently and stayed by her mother's side. She picked up the crown beside her and wanted to put it on her mother's head. Why do you take it off every time? No, Chunju pushed away the crown in Junju's hand. My throne of the Mermaid Queen was granted to me by the King of Gods. How dare I flaunt this glory in front of his god statue? Mom. Junju approached her mother. I have been by your side for so long. For so many years, you have always remembered the orders of the King of Gods, day and night, and have ruled a third of the mermaids in the world. The King of Gods can see everything in the world. How could it be blamed on you? At this moment, Cronus is still the God King of this land, but Chunju betrayed Cronus' belief and began to believe in Zeus, so she and her daughter called Zeus the God King. Maybe. Chunju closed her eyes wearily, and a terrifying maelstrom appeared in front of her eyes. Decades ago, she led the mermaid army to this sea area. In the ocean, a towering mountain range blocked the sea route, and only one strait could pass through it. And in front of the strait, there is a terrifying maelstrom hovering all day long, as if it swallowed all the seawater in the world, and the violent current can engulf all living beings that can get close. The owner of this maelstrom is named Skyla. All the creatures who want to pass through this strait will be eaten by her 1/6. Moreover, Skyla has enslaved hundreds of thousands of mermaids. To unify the mermaid tribe, Chunju must defeat her. But Skyla is the daughter of Ekadna, the mother of demons, with terrifying and extraordinary divine power, and Chunju has suffered disastrous defeats in many battles with her. The upper body of Skyla is a horrible and evil goddess. She has 3 heads, 6 hands, The lower body is a huge octopus like a mountain, and countless gray dogs, connected end to end, form a belt and surround her. Junju has also seen Skora's terrifying appearance, and whenever she thinks about it, she will have nightmares. Junju wanted to comfort her mother. She pursed her lips, remembering what her mother had said to her. "Mother, don't worry. Didn't you tell me that the God King used to be with you?" "Shush, don't talk nonsense." Chunju's face turned red when she heard her daughter's words, and there was a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. Seeing her expression, Junju was also taken aback. Chunju, who has already ruled 1/3 of the mermaids in the world, is a well-deserved mermaid queen. She is extremely dignified and strict in normal times. Never seen her like this. Chunju recalls Zeus and the 6 months she spent with him. And Chunju held down her lower abdomen, and the surging divine power fluctuated in it. During those 6 months, Chunju became pregnant with Zeus' child. Recently, this divine power fluctuated more and more intensely, often making Chunju unable to walk. No loss is the child of the king of gods. Chunju thought to herself, she has been conceived for so many years and has not yet been born. If I gave birth to a mermaid by myself, it would take only half a year. Mom, what does the God King look like? Junju is not the blood of Zeus. She was born when Zeus rescued Chunju. Pure pearls are pure, because mermaids can give birth to offspring by themselves. The God King. Chunju was lost in memory, with a smile on her face. He is the most beautiful boy in the world. His blonde hair, tall and strong, always surrounded by shining thunder. His divine voice has the magical power to conquer people's hearts, and his divine breath is full of the power of a king. Any creature who feels his divine breath will involuntarily prostrate on the ground, worshipping the coming of the gods. He stepped on a thundercloud, held a thunderbolt, and descended into the world with an invincible posture. That day, he suddenly appeared and saved my life. His shining appearance made me dare not raise my eyes. Because how noble he is, and how humble I am. I tried my best to look at him, and then I fell madly in love with him. Chunju's eyes were straight, lost in memories. I witnessed his divine marriage. The sky lowered a corner, and put the hand of the goddess Themis in his. The white clouds became her wedding dress, and in the sky, a sea of flowers bloomed, covering the river of stars. The heavens and the earth are filled with songs of joy and praise, and the majestic, dignified, tremblingly beautiful, icy and inviolable goddess Themis has become his wife. I will never be compared with Themis, just like gold is compared to the mud on the ground. I fell into despair, my body turned into foam, and when I was about to die. Junju only knew that her mother had real contact with the God King, but she didn't expect her mother to have such a past with the God King, so she opened her eyes wide. And then I realized that Zeus didn't know I loved him. He hadn't rejected me yet. How could I die like that? Even if it turns into a bubble, I still want to hear his rejection with my own ears. So I mustered up the courage to express my love to Zeus, and he agreed. Chunju fell into sweet memories. He gave me 1/10,000th of his love. Junju stared at her big beautiful eyes. Mother, that's why you can keep your human form forever? Peeved. When Junju got excited, her legs disappeared and turned into a fishtail again. No wonder mother can keep her legs forever. Junju curled her lips, half envious, half lonely. Mermaids can temporarily transform into human form, but if they want to maintain it permanently, they need other creatures to love them sincerely. When will I get true love? Junju thought in her heart. God King Zeus. A voice sounded deep inside. Junju was taken aback by this thought. She blushed and bowed her head deeply. Zeus is the god he believes in, not to mention him and his mother. What is he? It's been so many years, I don't know, does he still care about me? I'm so worried, my performance let him down. Chunju didn't notice the change in her daughter's heart. In the gloom. A moment later, Chunju's beautiful eyes suddenly turned red, her expression became ferocious, and a billow of divine power exploded from her side, straight into the sky. Chunju stood up, put on the crown, and held a huge bow in her hand. 12 white sea snakes woke up together, raised their heads to the sky and roared, and the fierce roar resounded through the bottom of the sea. In an instant, she became that heroic, solemn and inviolable mermaid queen again. Bastard Skyla. I want to fight her to the death. Even if I die, I won't let my god down. Chunju gritted her teeth and said in a low voice. Chunju rode on the huge white water snake and broke through the sea. Huge currents of water transpired, forming a huge rainbow on the sea. The crown on her head shone brightly, and the warbow in her hand shone brightly. She stared intently at the huge mountain range in the distance. In front of the narrow strait, a huge vortex swallowed the seawater, resounding loudly. Mother, don't get angry, your injury is still not healed. Holding the sword, Junju burst out of the water, her golden hair falling down like a waterfall. I can't let my god king down again. I have ordered my warriors to attack in 3 days. Chunju gritted her teeth and looked at the vast vortex in the distance. This. Junju wanted to comfort her mother, but seeing her resolute expression, she nodded. Sea God Island, among the thunderclouds. All this was seen by Zeus. Chunju is still extremely loyal to herself, but her strength is not enough to compete with Skyla. Zeus, who is familiar with Greek mythology, knows that Skyla, the queen of the whirlpool, is one of the many sons and daughters of Echidna, the mother of demons. Her biggest feature is the chain of vicious dogs around her waist. Countless vicious dogs are connected end to end, like a planet's star ring, surrounding her waist, and each vicious dog has the power no less than that of a middle god. Seeing the pure pearl in the phantom, Zeus's heart moved. It's been a long time since I saw Chunju. Not to mention the suffering of believers. As a god, I should uphold it. Zeus' fingertips shone with thunder and merged into the phantom. The maelstrom where the pure pearl is located is tens of thousands of miles away from Sea God Island. Even if Zeus turns into an eagle and rides thunder and lightning, it is impossible to reach it quickly. But Chunju is his believer, and Zeus, as a god, can appear in front of the believer immediately. This is called God enlightenment. Thunder rumbled. The sea was originally calm, but the wind was blowing everywhere, the waves were surging, and the sky was raining heavily. Chunju saw that in a corner of the sky, dark clouds swept and spread, as if covering the sky. In an instant, the sun disappeared, and the dark clouds were densely covered. Thunder thundered from the dark clouds, and every thunder sounded in Chunju's heart. In the rainstorm, the dark clouds shone with golden thunder at the same time. Zeus' majestic body like a mountain appeared from the thunder, and the majestic power swept across the ocean, making all living beings worship. Mom, look, this is... Junju's eyes widened in horror. She was almost blown away by the terrifying wind. Her face was pale and bloodless under the thunder, and her golden hair danced wildly. She grabbed her mother's hand in a panic. Mom, what is this? Let's run. But she was unmoved when she saw Chunju. Chunju knelt down on top of the white sea snake's head, and the sea snake also lowered its head. Great God King, your loyal followers are here to welcome your arrival. May your glory be eternal, because you are the bone of my bones and the blood of my blood. Junju's heart trembled wildly. With a puzzled look on her face, she had to kneel down with her mother, and carefully raised her eyes to peek. He has an incomparably tall and majestic body, and he is the most beautiful young man among all living beings in the world, not to mention his divine aura. Junju fought in the ocean with her mother since she was a child, and has seen many creatures. They also have a terrifying or violent aura, but they have never been like the god in front of them, full of the power of a king who looks down on the world, and the sky and sea are like its servants. Is he the god King Zeus? Junju raised his head curiously. The king in the sky landed beside them. Countless golden thunderbolts surrounded him like a dragon. He opened his palm, and there was a golden cube in his palm. This cube exudes a terrifying aura. It changes into a triangle, an oval, a cone, and finally turns into a golden sword, pointing at the mother's head. This is the power of Zeus's thunder. His 700,000 dark thunders have been washed away and turned into gold again, with restrained light. Junju was furious, and she wanted to reprimand her, but found that her right hand was held tightly by her mother, and she couldn't move because of her mother's majestic divine power. Junju was so angry that she wanted to roar, but found that she couldn't even open her mouth. Chunju, I feel that you once doubted yourself, doubted whether your god has abandoned you. Yes, venerable God King, for countless nights, I suspect that you have abandoned me and your most loyal believer, I. Don't doubt your god. Didn't I tell you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or panic, because your God will be with you. Yes. Yes, my father, my spirit. Chunju shed tears, pearls flowed down one by one, she was moved by Zeus' words and wept bitterly. Zeus felt the purest and most perfect divine power pouring into the divine body, which is a proof of the faith of believers. Zeus turned his head to Junju. I saw you, Junju. You complained for your mother, that is a pure heart, and I also saw the majestic divine power in your body. You are worthy of being the daughter of the mermaid queen. Junju's heart trembled, she felt the kindness and tenderness in Zeus' eyes, and the boundless love was indeed the power of God. Zeus is the future god king. His godhead is constantly awakening, and his divine power has the magical power to subdue and convince all living beings. Junju didn't know why, tears were falling like rain, and pearls kept falling down. Her heart was churning, and her mind was in a mess. The great gods cared about her, the relationship between her mother and the gods, her deep desire for love, and the majestic body and majestic power of Zeus. Junju felt that her mother's power to suppress herself disappeared. She knelt down deeply, and said, Great God King, your eternal believer Junju is here. May you walk in the sky, spread your divine power in the world, and shepherd the people in this world. All living beings, may your glory live forever. I have felt your sincerity, believer. Zeus looked at Junju kneeling on the ground, her white neck and long golden hair. Your God will definitely help you. Zeus called out the holy bell of awakening, and Junju felt the divine power in her body trembling with the holy bell, and the bottleneck that hindered her advancement seemed to gradually disappear. Boom! The pure divine power of the sea burst out from Junju, and the source of her divine power appeared, and a huge scallop appeared in front of her eyes. The shell of the scallop was covered with emerald green water plants and shining gemstones, presenting an extremely gorgeous color. Boom! The scallop opened its huge shell, like a huge mountain. Inside the shell were countless pearls shining with silver light. It sprayed countless pearls to the sky. A rain of pearls fell from the sky accompanied by strong fluctuations in divine power. Junju looked at her white arm in surprise, and she clenched her fists, feeling that her strength had increased several times, and she climbed from the 6th rank of the lower god to the god position of the middle god in one fell swoop. Son, don't you thank your god king? Chunju said with a smile. Junju woke up from the joy and excitement, she showed longing and admiration, she knelt down solemnly, and put her fingers in front of her heart. Thank you for the gift of God King. Your believers will definitely obey your orders, because your holy name is better than my bones, my blood, and my life. A trace of extremely pure divine power was integrated into Zeus' divine body. Although the amount was rare, it could be worth Zeus' months of hard work. After the god position reaches a certain level, it is very slow to rely on the cultivation of profound truths to improve. It is a good way to cultivate loyal and powerful believers. Zeus turned his head to Chunju. Chunju, you have been ordered to unify the mermaid tribe and fight on the ocean for a long time. I see that your divine power has reached the 6th level of the middle god, and has not yet reached the bottleneck. I cannot help you awaken, but I can give you this fetish. Thunder condensed in the palm of Zeus, and the rays of light were overwhelming. In the majestic light, a towering olive tree appeared. There are several golden fruits on the tree. The fruits are already ripe, and the olive oil is dripping down. A diamond bottle appeared in Zeus's hand, filled with golden olive oil, exuding terrifying fluctuations of divine power. The olive oil was not a liquid, but congealed into a solid, like gold in a diamond vase. Use your divine power to refine this oil. As long as you don't die, every drop can revive you once. Thank you for the gift of God King. Chunju took it respectfully. Chunju didn't refuse God King's gift, because she knew that she could not refuse God. The will of the God King is absolute, no matter what, she must accept it. If it is a gift, she cannot humbly refuse it, and if it is a punishment, she cannot escape it. The task I entrusted to you, how much have you completed? Please be punished by the God King. Chunju knelt down and touched the ground with her forehead. I have ruled 1/3 of the mermaids in the world, and the total number is about 7.7 million. I came here decades ago here. I want to conquer Skyla and spread the glory of the God King in this sea area. But Skyla is far stronger than me, and I have lost several battles. You don't have to blame yourself, I see everything and know your loyalty. Zeus came here for another purpose. He opened the system interface and saw the option of faith. Obtain a believer. 100 Supreme Divine Source Stones. Gaining 1,000,000 followers. Lone Star in a Pure White Universe. Get 1,000,000,000 believers. Acquired hundreds of billions of believers. Gain trillions of believers. So far, in fact, Zeus has only 4 believers, the Naga Queen Seia, the personal guard mermaid Luju, the mermaid queen Chunju and her daughter Junju. What is the belief of your mermaid group now? Boom! A sound of thunder resounded in Chunju's heart. The voice of the God King was quiet and peaceful, but it pierced her heart like a knife. Asking herself, Chunju believes that she has achieved all loyalty to the God King, except for one thing, that is faith. Chunju believed in Zeus, and her daughter also believed in Zeus, but she did not spread the belief in Zeus to her own ethnic group. This is because Chunju always has some selfishness in her heart. She doesn't want too many people to believe in Zeus, because only in this way can she show her uniqueness and preciousness. She loves Zeus, and she hopes to have Zeus alone, at least to get more attention from him, so she did not spread the faith to the merfolk. Chunju knew that the gods hoped to have more believers. Whenever she thinks of this, she tosses and turns, having trouble sleeping and eating, but in the end, her emotions overcome her reason. Chunju felt cold sweat breaking out all over her body, her breasts trembling. Her hands gripped the ground tightly, so tight that she was about to bleed. Feelings of despair and fear haunted her. In an instant, it was full of tears. Pearls pile up hills on the ground. God King, I. Chunju really couldn't say it, she didn't know how to explain it to the God King. Because she is just a mermaid, she only possesses the divine power of the middle god, and the gap with the lofty Themis is like gems and dirt, and she only has 1/10,000th of the love of the God King. Zeus was born with the divine body of thunder, and the thunder in his eyes can see through falsehoods and look directly into the hearts of living beings. Zeus clearly saw Chunju's heart. As my believer, you should spread the faith for your god. This is your mission. You must not escape or make excuses. Yes. I beg God King for forgiveness, but please don't doubt my loyalty, my soul. Call your mermaid pack. I want them to betray God and believe in me from now on. On the top of Mount Olympus, in the Bronze Hall, numerous gargoyles burning with blue and black danced in the hall. The God King Cronus sat on his throne, and behind him was the vision of the king. The scepter, sword and brilliant rainbow light reflected in the entire hall. On the ground, an infinitely terrifying and fierce divine breath burst out. Beside Cronus, stood a tall and healthy god, wearing a laurel crown on his head, and behind him were 3 burning torches. He is Prometheus, the son of Iapetus, the pillar of the west, and Clymene, the goddess of prestige. Prometheus is not one of the 12 main gods of Olympus, but because of his powerful wisdom and divine power, his status is extremely high in the court of Cronus. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in Prometheus' eyes, and he squinted his eyes and looked at Cronus. Great king of gods, I feel it. Cronus's voice sounded like a scream of 100,000 ghosts and gods. What did you hear, my humble servant? Another batch of hateful blasphemers has appeared, betraying the faith in you. Cronus slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were as majestic as a knife, and every time he saw this pair of eyes, Prometheus' heart beat wildly. Prometheus, your mother, she has long gone out in your stead against the blasphemers and their wretched gods. Prometheus looked at Cronus, who was like a giant snake, constantly tightening his neck, and couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. Yes, my god king. 100 years ago, Zeus made the Naga queen Seia betray the gods and believe in Zeus. That made Cronus very angry, and ordered Prometheus to go to conquer, destroy the Naga tribe, and kill the gods they believed in. But Prometheus didn't want to fight at all. Prometheus was not loyal to Cronus. He had long wanted to overthrow Cronus' court and crown himself the king of gods. It is impossible for him to work for Cronus. However, it was really difficult to resist Cronus's divine order. Prometheus' mother, one of the 12 titans, and the goddess of prestige, Clymene, offered to go out on behalf of her son to destroy the new faith of the Naga tribe. God. You should know the majesty of the divine order. The divine order cannot be defied, and the will of the divine king must be carried out. If your mother is not up to the task, if she fails, then it is your responsibility to draw out the source of her divine power with your own hands and cut off her priesthood, cast her into the bottomless abyss. Yes, my god king, your will is my destiny. Prometheus broke out in a cold sweat. Even though he had superb wisdom and supernatural power, he was like a grass in front of Cronus, weak as thunder in the face of the storm. Prometheus slowly walked out of the bronze temple. It's been 100 years since my mother went to conquer that hateful new god, and it's probably coming soon. Should I go to help my mother? Prometheus calculated in his mind that he was unwilling to help Cronus. In his mind, it was best for Cronus to fight the new god to the death, so that he could calmly ascend to the position of god king. Let's go and see what's going on. After thinking for a long time, Prometheus decided to go to the end of the ocean to find the new god who was fighting against Cronus. If the new god has enough divine power, then maybe his power can be used. The laurel crown on Prometheus' head fell, and the laurel leaves turned into a large green ship. He rode on it and flew towards the distance. Drip, mission accomplished. Your number of believers has reached 1 million, and you will be rewarded. The lone star in the pure white universe. On the other side of the ocean, the sea area next to the maelstrom, Zeus looked majestically at the group of mermaids crawling on the ground. Under Chunju's order, they had just performed the ritual of betrayal of the gods, betraying the belief of Cronus and believing in Zeus instead. The master of the great thunder power, the guardian of the oath, the master of the sky and the earth, the shepherd of all living things in the world, the god of gods, the king of kings, Zeus. Your order is our destiny. Guarding you with our blood, dedicating to you with songs of praise, God King Zeus, we pray for your mercy. The voices of praise and prayer came one after another, and the 7.7 million mermaids under the mermaid queen Chunju all believed in Zeus. On the one hand, this is because of Chunju's order, and on the other hand, it is because of Zeus's constantly awakening godhead, which has incomparable appeal, which makes the creatures in the world yearn and surrender. Very good. Zeus nodded in satisfaction. The surrender of many believers has brought a majestic and vast divine power, making him closer and closer to breaking through the bottleneck of the fifth order high god. Didn't I tell you that those who believe in me will be rewarded tenfold, and those who slander me and disrespect me, I will use my sword to let the wrath of God burn all over the earth. The majestic voice of Zeus sounded, and many with fanaticism in his eyes, the Murloc looked up at Zeus with reverence. I know that you are in this vortex, and you have been blocked by the owner of the vortex, the sea demon Skyla, for a long time. Today, you should see divine power. The phantom of Zeus, as tall as a mountain, shrouded the ocean, and his majestic voice resounded through the land. Lightning flashed all over him, dyeing the entire ocean golden. Zeus raised the thunder in his hand high, and in an instant, violent divine power was everywhere. The real body of Zeus is still thousands of miles away on the sea god island. He just projected his phantom onto the ocean. But his ferocious and violent thunder still enveloped the ocean. Amidst the thunder, heavy rain fell instantly. Such a great divine power. This divine power is not only ferocious, but also has unparalleled majesty. This is the power of a king. Between heaven and earth, apart from the great king of gods, Cronus, who is burning with bronze flames and holding a dark scythe, can also anyone. But this is not Cronus. The phantom of Zeus is as huge as mountains and rivers, standing on the rough ocean, looking at all directions with an invincible posture. His divine power resonated with the sea and sky, like a thunderbolt in the hearts of many creatures. In the ocean, Murlocs, sirens, Naga, sea monsters, all stared at the phantom in the sky in shock. Among them, of course, there are two mothers and daughters, Chunju and Junju. Junju held her mother's hand in great horror. She stared at the sky nervously with her beautiful emerald-like eyes. Mother, is this our belief, the power of God King Zeus? Such a terrifying oppressive force, I can hardly breathe. Puff, puff, puff. Countless blood flowers and bone fragments exploded from the ocean, and countless fish and sea creatures exploded to death. The blood was like flowers blooming on the ocean. Weak creatures, in the face of powerful divine power, will not be able to bear it, and will explode to death. Skyla, despicable beast, shameless sea monster, daughter of the mother of monsters, Echidna, your sins must be washed away by blood. Come out. Face the stern god, and taste the wrath of God. The divine voice of Zeus resounded through the ocean, like 100,000 deep-sea dragons roaring at the same time, shaking the entire ocean. Such a terrifying divine voice. I seemed to see 100,000 giant dragons lurking in the deep sea, waking up at the same time, roaring and heading towards the sky. Countless creatures in the deep sea are watching this war in horror. I didn't expect that the god that group of Murlocs believed in was not our great god King Cronus. The gods they believe in will actually respond to them, and really come down to conquer the enemy for them. Why has Cronus never answered our pleas? How dare you speculate on God's will at will? God is supreme and omniscient, and everything he has a reason. The divine power of this new god is so amazing, I think it is no less than the god King Cronus. You are blasphemy. You are blaspheming our gods. Cronus never answers our prayers, why don't we turn to this new god? Despicable traitor. Your disloyalty will be paid in blood. The appearance of Zeus, his great divine power and majesty caused countless creatures to fall into a fierce debate. Zeus didn't know that his appearance made countless creatures in this ocean begin to doubt their beliefs. Invisibly, the number of potential believers of Zeus is increasing again. Ahead, there is an incomparably huge vortex. It greedily devours the surrounding seawater and all living things. The majestic waves and fierce currents are intertwined, like an ancient evil god that devours everything. Coming, Chunju's face turned serious, she bit her lips tightly, her red lips were so charming, surrounded by 12 white sea snakes. The crown on her head is made of emeralds and colorful corals, shining with light. She holds a huge bow, and behind her is an army of Murlocs with a solemn appearance. She had wanted to cross this vortex countless times, and had fought against the owner of this vortex, the sea monster Skyla, several times, but Skyla's power was beyond her imagination. However, this time is different. Son, this is going to end soon. Our God has come, and he will calm down this vortex for us, child. God King Zeus is so kind to us, so caring. My child, Chunju thought of Zeus, and thought that Zeus had actually listened to her prayers and calls, and personally defeated her powerful enemy. Such an honorable God King once gave me 1 out of 10,000 love, how should I repay the great God King? My child, how should I repay the God King? Chunju had already burst into tears. Suddenly, the vortex turned red, and a stench wafted from the nostrils. In the blood-colored vortex, countless flesh and bones rose from it. A gigantic behemoth soared into the sky from the vortex. Her upper body was a human body, and her face was covered with 30 eyes. The blood-red eyes stared maliciously forward, and there was an evil smile on the corner of her mouth. On top of her head, there is also a snake head and a lizard head. Holding a bone sword in his hand, the lower body is a huge octopus like a mountain. Countless vicious dogs made of white bones were connected end to end to form a belt surrounding her. Looking carefully, the bone sword in her hand is composed of the bones of countless living beings, and it is still stained with blood. Who disturbed my slumber? Master of the maelstrom, daughter of Echidna, the mother of monsters, Skyla the sea monster will smash you to pieces. Who disturbed my slumber? My anger will tear you to pieces. Skyla roared with 30 blood-red eyes. Beast, today is the time for you to taste death. The huge figure of Zeus above the ocean turned into a young boy with fluttering blonde hair, stepping on thunderclouds, faint golden thunder patterns flowing all over his body, calm eyes, but supreme majesty. Skyla looked at Zeus, felt the powerful divine power on him, and felt a little surprised. It's not his huge divine power, but the majesty contained in that divine power, which is the majesty of a king who rules the sky and the earth and shepherds all creatures in the world. This power belongs only to God King Cronus. The boy in front of him actually has this power. Skyla's mother is Echidna, the mother of all monsters, and Echidna will become the wife of Typhon, the king of all monsters, and bring a devastating blow to Olympus. Echidna is the mother of almost all monsters in the world of Olympus. The Skylas were of wild and unrivaled blood from their mother, but they had been suppressed by the God King as wild beasts fear the hunter. Because the power of the God King represents the order of the world. Skyla thought to himself, the children of the God King should have been swallowed by himself, how could there be such a similar power? No. The divine power of the divine king is an inexhaustible blue-black flame. Whenever he descends, countless gargoyles will descend from the sky. And this boy, his divine power contains thunder, which is different from the divine king. He can't be the messenger of the god king, then I have nothing to fear. As soon as she confirmed it in her heart, Skyla smiled, and she straightened up the bone sword in her hand. Suddenly, countless screams erupted from the bone sword. The bone hounds around her opened their mouths wide, and rushed towards Zeus together. Skyla was only the third rank of the upper god, and Zeus didn't pay attention to it at all. Zeus's chaos body forging mystery has achieved a little success, and it's time to test its fineness. Zeus didn't even activate his divine power. He clenched his fists tightly, and blasted fiercely towards the countless bone hounds and bone swords that were bombarding him. Stupid god. A cruel smile appeared on Skyla's face. She is in charge of this maelstrom, and any creature that wants to pass through the maelstrom will be swallowed by her for 1/6, and it has been going on for millions of years since she was born. She absorbs the power of living beings and condenses the bones of countless living beings into this bone sword. So whenever this bone sword is sacrificed, there will be countless screams resounding through the sky, which are the souls of countless living beings trembling in it. She also asked her mother to inject the curse of the demon mother into the bone sword, which greatly increased its power, but it needed fresh blood of life to irrigate it from time to time. Now this young man doesn't activate his divine power, and resists the bone sword, he will surely die. God King. Your glory will surely shine in this sea. Chun Tzu watched the battlefield, folded her hands together, and kept praying for Zeus in her heart. She had great confidence in Zeus's strength, but she didn't expect that Zeus didn't use his divine power to resist the bone sword with his physical body, so she couldn't help feeling worried. After all, she had fought against Skyla before, and she clearly knew the strength of that bone sword. Be the nourishment of my bone sword. Today, the owner of the great vortex will once again prove her endless glory. Skyla had already seen the scene where Zeus was pierced directly, and then used his blood to water the bone sword. Boom! The bone sword clashed with Zeus' fist, and the seawater exploded out of thin air, making a deafening sound. What? Skyla's smile froze, his pupils shrank, as if he saw an incredible scene. The group of bonehounds were blown to pieces by Zeus' fist wind, and the bones scattered like rain. And the edge of the bone sword in Skyla's hand snapped unexpectedly. The souls of countless creatures burst out from it, flying into the air, covering the sky and the sun. The souls that had been trapped in them for millions of years were finally freed. Their screams roared across the ocean, seeming to cry and also laugh. Countless creatures present couldn't help feeling thunderous when they heard it. A million years. Free at last. A million years, finally. Chunju opened her beautiful eyes wide and looked up to the sky in shock. Countless souls were flying in the air, and screams resounded through the heaven and earth. You actually broke Skyla's bone sword with one blow. With this level of strength, God King. How strong are you? The moment the bone sword broke, a huge force bounced back, Skyla's entire arm was broken, and green blood gushed out from the wound. Boom! Skyla was bombarded by a huge force to the huge mountain behind him. The mountain shook continuously, and the gravel burst. That gigantic mountain named Finger of the God King was trembling. What a terrifying power this is! Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Skyla's complexion was pale, and blood flowed profusely, as if he had been seriously injured. There was a look of hatred on her face, and suddenly, countless tiny poisonous snakes spewed out from the wound, and they intertwined with each other to form a new arm. Where are you from? You are not the messenger of the god King Cronus, not the main god of Olympus. Who are you? The three heads of Skyla screamed. The voice was hoarse. It was unbelievable that the opponent almost killed him with a single blow. Could it be that you are a god outside the woman who came to our god realm to cause trouble? Hearing, beyond the fog gate, everyone present was full of surprises and discussions. Sure enough, it might be a god outside the woman. Otherwise, how could there be such a powerful divine power? The fog door didn't open. How did he get through? Zeus knew it well, because this universe is connected by several god domains, and the god domains are blocked by fog gates, making it impossible to pass through. As Zeus saw when he traveled across, this is the Olympus god's domain. The west is the domain of gods, angels and demons. The north is the domain of Odin, Thor and Naiad. The east is the domain of Shiva and Brahma, and the south is the domain of yellow sand, the Nile River and the pharaohs. He even regarded himself as a foreign god. God who controls thunder and lightning, why don't you answer me? Do you want to take my life? My mother is a great monster. Echidna, I am her favorite child. Kill me, and you will anger my mother, and her wrath will burn you. Get out of here. I forgive you sin. This Skyla, who was beaten like a dog by Zeus, dared to say that he forgave Zeus's sins. He really didn't know how to live. The mermaid princess Junju was innocent and ignorant, and she was very angry when she heard this. Seeing Zeus approaching step by step, Skyla was both surprised and suspicious. The backer he moved out of was not afraid at all. Are you really not afraid of my mother? You bastard! Skyla gritted his teeth, and the three heads roared simultaneously. The poisonous dragon in the deep sea. Listen to my call. The great monster, the daughter of the demon mother Echidna, the master of the maelstrom, and the devourer of 1/6 of life, Skyla calls you. For my use, I will use my blood and flesh to repay you, the army of the deep sea dragon. Show up, show up, show up. Skyla gritted his teeth and trembled violently. Green blood burst out from his body and fell into the sea. The strong stench made the surrounding creatures want to vomit. Run! Her blood is corrosive. My God, my body. Green blood flowed into the ocean, polluting the sea area. The bodies of creatures with weak divine powers began to fester one after another, screaming again and again. Mom, what is Skyla doing? Junju's eyes widened, and she tightly held her mother's hand. She is using blood to summon the magic dragon in the deep sea. For her use. Chunju pulled Junju behind her, and a layer of crystal-clear water shield tightly enveloped the two of them. Then our great god, Zeus, can we beat it? Son, you can't doubt your god, Zeus is sure to win. This is our belief. Chunju smiled, she pinched Junju's little face. Son, do you know what my belief in Zeus is? Even if his life is in danger now, even if he is about to be killed by the enemy, I firmly believe that he will win. And I will rush forward immediately and sacrifice my life for our gods. This is my respect to Zeus' faith. My belief in Zeus has nothing to do with whether I win or not. Oh. Junju nodded, half understanding. Boom, boom, boom. Skyla's blood fell into the ocean, and suddenly, countless white bubbles floated on the surface of the sea, and then, countless huge dragons flew violently from the sea. There are wide wings behind the dragon, and the black scales emit bursts of cold air, and the sky is instantly dark. In this darkness, only the eyes of the dragon emit red light, illuminating the dark night sky. In the huge darkness, there are only pairs of blood-red dragon eyes, watching the surrounding creatures. The huge wings arouse the water flow as high as a mountain, and the fierce dragon's cry resounds through the heaven and earth. A million red giant eyes in the darkness. My God! This is the legendary Echidna's great demon magic. In my lifetime, I was able to witness such a magnificent scene with my own eyes. My God, I did not die alone among the water plants and shells, nor did I lose my beloved and turn into foam. I held a giant bow and rode White Snake, leading the Murloc army, saw such a magnificent sight. Chunju muttered to herself, staring blankly at Diang. She held Junju's hand tightly. Child, watch carefully. This will be the most magnificent battle you have ever seen in your life. Skyla is the daughter of Echidna, the mother of monsters. Echidna has mastered 2 great monsters, and it is said that they have the power to fight against the god King Cronus. One is, a million red giant eyes in the dark. The second is, Sonata of the Storm. She taught this magic to her daughter Skyla. More. We want more, more. At this moment, the magic dragon on the ocean started to roar at the same time. Their blood-red eyes stared straight at Skyla, making people shudder. Greedy beast. Bastard. Skyla gritted his teeth, wishing he could rush up and tear Zeus to pieces. These dragons are too greedy, and the beast blood on Skyla's body is not enough to satisfy them. Meat. There's still not enough blood. We want your flesh. A million red giant eyes in the dark is a great demon magic, and only Echidna can fully exert its power. Skyla's divine power is insufficient, and she is forced to drive, and her blood is not enough to satisfy these greedy dragons. Click. With red eyes, Skyla actually tore off one of his arms. Green blood burst out from the wound, and the stench shot straight into the sky. In the green blood, there are countless tiny poisonous snakes. The octopus feet under her suddenly exploded, tightly wrapped around her head, and suddenly unscrewed one of her heads. The twisted head, with green blood flowing from the eyes, and a big blood-red mouth, laughed wildly, "Stupid god. I sacrifice myself to the dragon, and the huge army of dragons will swallow you, in the midst of fear and die in despair." Countless tiny poisonous snakes gushed out from her severed head, several meters long, swaying in the strong wind, extremely terrifying. Most of the creatures on the scene have fled, and the rest of them all want to vomit when they see this place. The head and arms were thrown towards the group of dragons by Skyla. On the ocean, they exploded instantly, and the rain of blood fell like a sword, flying into the group of dragons. Roar! In an instant, countless giant red eyes turned to Zeus. Scarlet mist floated around them, and the monstrous killing intent almost solidified into a solid body. Zeus looked at the countless giant red eyes in the darkness, feeling extremely calm in his heart. The great demon magic that Echidna taught Skyla was really powerful. Skyla is only a third-level high god, yet she can summon hundreds of thousands of first-level high god deep-sea dragons, which greatly exceeds her supposed combat effectiveness. However, Zeus has the perfect and introverted thunderbolt after being refined by the Crimson Sea. The divine power has been refined by the divine breath of chaos. Although it is only the fifth level of the upper god, its combat power is far superior. Divine breath and divine consciousness are almost perfect. His body has been tempered by the secrets of chaos training, and it is unrivaled in strength. There are Spear of Liberty, that can be freely transformed, in Aegis, the shield of Zeus. There is also a golden olive tree in his body, which is enough to resurrect himself many times. How much strength do you have? Facing the dragon army in front of him, Zeus was a little excited. Skyla and these deep-sea dragons are an excellent opportunity to test their own strength. Drop. At this moment, the system that had been silent for a long time rang. Option 1. Use the divine power of thunder to tear Skyla and her dragon army into pieces. Reward: 30,000 divine power stones. Option 2. Use the physical body to completely defeat Skyla and her dragon army. Reward: the Lake of Divine Power. Just what I want. Without thinking, Zeus chose option 2. 30,000 source stones of divine power seem to be a lot, but no matter how you look at them, the divine power contained in them is not comparable to the Lake of Divine Power. And Zeus originally planned to defeat Skyla with his body. Roar. Accompanied by the terrifying roar, countless blood-red giant eyes approached rapidly on the ocean, and the wings of the magic dragon set off a huge storm on the sea, and rushed towards Zeus. Zeus' face darkened, and with the sound of thunder, countless golden thunderbolts fell from the sky, instantly turning the ocean into gold. In the golden light, Zeus stepped forward and punched the dragon. Boom! Chunju could only see the ocean. Zeus punched the dragon's head, and the dragon's head exploded like a ripe fruit, with flesh and blood flying everywhere. The entire head of the dragon was directly pierced by Zeus, and it crashed down, falling into the sea hugely, setting off huge waves. Big waves. Hold on to me. Chunzu held onto Zhenzu tightly, calling out all her might to protect her water shield, but she was almost blown away by the incoming huge waves. I was born in the ocean, but I have never seen such a huge wave. The body of the magic dragon is really huge. Chunju looked nervously at the ocean. Boom! Boom! Zeus was like a no-man's land. With a punch, a dragon's head was shattered, and flesh and blood flew over the ocean, falling one after another, like hell. Bastard! This dragon is so unbearable. Skyla gathered his divine power in his hands, and suddenly pointed to the sea. The magic of the sea monster, the elegy in the storm is played, and the road to death is suddenly opened. The dead, offer your bones and use them for me. There seemed to be countless singing voices around Skyla. They praised death loudly, and many creatures were so maddened to hear it, they danced wildly with the singing, and many creatures fell into madness. Chunju turned her head, and found that nearly half of her Murloc army was dancing wildly with the singing, and some murlocs even had bloodshot eyes and crazy faces, and they grabbed their own murlocs with both hands. Neck, will commit suicide on this ocean. Chunju hastily exerted her divine power, trying her best to stabilize the mood of the murloc army. Feeling her divine power pouring out like a flood, her complexion was pale. Boom! As Skyla's song of death reached its climax, the corpses of the previously dead dragons rose from the ocean. Their heads were completely destroyed, their bodies were covered with dragon blood, and their scales were blood red. Zeus punched another dragon's head. It was discovered that on the ocean, countless headless dragon corpses that had been blasted to death by him before were all flying over the ocean. They raised their sharp dragon claws towards their chests, and slammed them down fiercely. Wow! The creatures present who hadn't escaped couldn't bear it anymore, and closed their eyes one after another, not daring to look at it again. This group of dead and resurrected dragon corpses pulled out their own spines alive with their dragon claws. Their huge wings flapped, and the sharp dragon claws pulled out the white keel from their bodies, trembling all over, and then fell into the sea again. 10,000 keels rose up without wind and flew towards Skyla. They were connected end to end to form a huge dragon gun. The moment the pure white dragon gun was combined, a layer of pure black dragon scales quickly appeared on its surface, exuding a monstrous killing intent. Skyla has disheveled hair and is extremely wild. She holds a pure black dragon gun in her hand, and countless poisonous snakes swim on her face. The surging divine power bursts out from her center, roaring over the ocean. Stupid god! You have the courage to take my shot. This dragon gun, which is made up of the spines of countless dragons, cannot be resisted by the stars in the sky or the giant spirits in the abyss. Skyla roared, and the dragon gun in his hand burst into an astonishing dragon cry, and the souls of countless dragons seemed to burst out from the dragon gun at the same time, drawing a thick black shadow on the ocean, fiercely attacking Zeus. Poke. This blow condensed all of Skyla's divine power. No, in fact, she completely overdrawn her divine power. Using the great demon magic, millions of red giant eyes in the darkness, is beyond her ability. She had to sacrifice her head and an arm to satisfy the dragon's greedy appetite. And she used the taboo magic, Horn of the Storm, Offering of the Dead, to force countless dragon corpses to donate their own dragon bones to form this dragon gun. She has offended the dragon clan in this world. If she survives by chance, she will be hunted down by the dragon forever until she dies. But she has been pushed to the limit by Zeus. This blow condensed all of Skyla's divine power. Faced with this terrifying blow, Zeus remained expressionless. He didn't use any weapons or divine power. He just gathered his strength and punched him. If you despise me so much, God, you will pay the price. I will not only obliterate your existence, but I will also obliterate all your believers. Skyla yelled at Zeus. Skyla's blood is extremely noble, and she has never experienced such a humiliating moment in her life. Hearing Skyla's roar, Zeus smiled slightly. Suddenly, a green gem appeared in front of Zeus. Its brilliance was extremely restrained, but the terrifying venom power emanating from it could still be felt. Skyla's pupils shrank slightly, and her complexion changed drastically. She felt a very familiar aura exuding from that gem. This is my brother, the breath of the great giant serpent? My younger brother once told me that he was planning to marry a goddess as his wife, and invited me to his temple, but there was no news about it. Could it be? It turned out that he killed my brother. Before he had time to think about it, Skyla's dragon spear and Zeus' fist met fiercely. The terrifying power erupted outwards from the two as the center, setting off huge waves. The huge wave hit the huge mountain, finger of the god king, and the huge mountain made a terrifying roar and trembled violently, as if it was about to fall down. Within 100,000 miles, all the weak creatures exploded and died in an instant. Boom! The terrifying power hit Skyla heavily, and she felt as if her whole body was being crushed, and she stepped back heavily, directly knocking down the giant mountain. Boom! The giant mountain was smashed into a deep pit, and Skyla was deeply embedded in it, unable to move anymore. Blood spewed from Skyla's mouth, her face was pale, her eyes were directly shattered by Zeus' divine power in the fierce battle, and green blood flowed down. The giant mountains roared, the waves roared to the sky, and the creatures within 100,000 miles were all shocked by this earth-shattering change. The poisonous snake. Tell me. How Zeus. He. Was shot by me. Skyla slowly opened his mouth, and a poisonous snake crawled out, its eyes looking in all directions. The huge waves dissipated, and above the ocean, there were millions of dark clouds, surrounded by golden thunder, and the sound of thunder shook the sky. A young man stepped on the thunderclouds, unharmed. His long golden hair danced wildly, his expression was calm and indifferent, and his whole body was fierce. The aura of the King of Gods is coming. What? You. I don't believe it, Skyla screamed, and she crushed the poisonous snake in her mouth, and several more poisonous snakes emerged from her empty eyes. Seeing Zeus, she trembled violently, and could not speak a word. After a while, God, I have experienced your divine power. Skyla's face was pale, green blood flowed from his empty eyes, and his voice was hoarse. God, I can make way for your believers. In the maelstrom, there are treasures that I have collected for many years. As long as you let me go, those treasures are yours. Skyla gritted her teeth, her divine bones were shattered, and her divine power was completely lost. At this moment, her divine power was not even as good as that of an ordinary mermaid. I remind you, Zeus, my mother is Echidna, the great mother of all monsters. Her followers and children are all over this world. Even the god King Cronus dare not disrespect her. It angered me, mother. You are the enemy of all the monsters in this world. Indeed, Chunju nodded silently. The reputation of the great mother of all demons, Echidna, resounded all over the world. Even the King of Gods would not dare to offend her easily. The great god king. What Skyla said is true. At this moment, the voice of Mateti rang out from his mind. In this god's domain, almost all the monsters are her children. The Hydra in the deep sea, Hydra, 100-headed poisonous dragon, the king of poisonous dragons, Radon. Human face, lion body, eagle wings, scorpion tail, wise manticore. The head of a lion, the body of a sheep, the tail of a snake, the flames that spew out can burn the sea, the wild beast chimera. The harpy sisters named Gale, Speed, Black Storm, Rainstorm, etc. Mateti's voice was calm and soft. When Mateti was born, he held an ancient scripture, Book of Wisdom, in his arms, so Mateti was very familiar with the knowledge of this god's domain. Mateti is connected with Zeus in mind. Whenever Zeus has doubts, Mateti will feel it and remind him. Mateti said softly, the great king of gods, Skyla is too small to be trusted. Once a mermaid saw that she didn't kneel down, so she gouged out the mermaid's eyes and cursed the mermaid. The descendants of mermaids have no eyes for generations. If you forgive her with kindness, she will never have any gratitude, and will only retaliate wildly. This is natural. Zeus nodded silently. In fact, Zeus, who is familiar with the history of Olympus, knows it well. Echidna, the mother of all monsters, will give birth to the most terrifying monster, Typhon, with Tartarus, the body of the abyss, in the future. Typhon will challenge his position as the god king and set off the fourth great war in the history of Olympus. Since they will all be enemies in the end, Zeus is naturally not afraid of offending Echidna. The domain of gods that he ruled would not have a habitat for these monsters. God, what are you thinking? Forgive my life, you and I will live in peace from now on. Skyla didn't know what Zeus was thinking. She vomited blood in her mouth, gritted her teeth and said intermittently. She was burning with anger in her heart, wishing she could tear Zeus to pieces immediately. If she survived, she would immediately go to find her mother, and with the help of her mother's power, Zeus would be completely wiped out from this domain of the gods, and all her followers would be slaves for generations. However, Skyla had a bad premonition in his heart. That was the green source stone owned by Zeus. The origin stone exuded amazing venom energy, which made her very familiar. It was the breath of her younger brother, the great poisonous snake. Did Zeus kill his own brother? Skyla was not sure, because she believed that no one would dare to make an enemy of Mother Echidna. HMPH. God. Do you know the king of this god's domain, God King Cronus? He will never allow the existence of gods other than him to challenge his authority. Your existence will make him angry, and I can help you keep it a secret. Skyla gritted her teeth and said. Even if this strange and arrogant god is not afraid of his mother, he will always be afraid of the king of this god's domain. God King Cronus. Using this as a threat, Skyla was sure he would forgive him. Stupid monster. Above the ocean, thunder was shining, and the golden thunder shone in the night sky, as if the world was about to disintegrate. The boy stepping on the thundercloud descended in front of Skyla like a bolt of lightning. Zeus clenched his fists. First of all, your treasures belong to me. If you are dead, no one will dare to stop me. Zeus punched out fiercely, directly hitting Skyla's lower abdomen. Boom! Skyla was tightly embedded in the giant mountain, unable to move at all, and could only bear this blow. Puff! Skyla's screams resounded across the ocean, her empty eyes, mouth and nose were bleeding continuously, and her whole body trembled violently. The entire giant mountain, finger of the god king, was also trembling violently, and countless boulders fell like rain, causing huge waves on the ocean. Second, you, your brother, your mother, including the monsters born by your mother, I will kill them one by one. Zeus mobilized his divine power, and suddenly, thunder light shone on his fists, and the huge light shone on the entire ocean, as bright as day. Golden electric current surrounded his body, blonde hair fluttered in the air, and a terrifying breath rushed towards his face. Another punch, hitting Skyla hard in the face. Boom. What? You? There was a huge wave in Skyla's heart, her pupils opened, and her face was extremely ugly. She couldn't believe that someone dared to challenge her mother's authority. Green blood exploded in the air, countless tiny poisonous snakes screamed and fell into the sea. Skyla's entire head was completely smashed. Third, God King Cronus is not qualified to rule this god's domain. I will replace him. A perfect square thunderbolt appeared, which was condensed by Zeus from the 700,000 thunderbolts. It was smooth and introverted, with a terrifying and violent aura. The power of thunder condensed on the tip of Zeus's thumb, and he lightly touched Skyla's body. Countless venomous snakes crawled out of Skyla's wound, they screamed in shock, and the snake's body violently swayed in the air. Skyla's body was smashed to pieces by Zeus's thunderbolt, and the huge mountain behind her turned into dust, floating in the air like dust. Not even a single piece of gravel fell. After a short period of silence, above the ocean, amazing cheers erupted. Control the thunder, great, loving God, we thank you, praise you, and may your glory shine forever. God, thank you for saving us from the horrors of Nazgûl. We will always remember your achievements and praise your greatness. Our Savior, you have saved us and given us new life. All living beings should worship you and praise you. Skyla ruled this sea for millions of years, and she swallowed 1/6 of all creatures that tried to pass through her maelstrom. All the creatures in the vicinity are full of resentment towards her. Supreme, supreme, perfect and holy God King, we are all small sinners before you. We are worthy and worthy of your grace and glory. Eternal God King, please hear our prayers. May God the glory of the King will always shine on this land. Chunju pulls Junju and kneels on the ocean. She trembles all over, tears drip from the corners of her eyes, condensing into colorful pearls. The army of mermaids behind her knelt down together, and the sound of praise resounded through the sky. What a powerful force! Zeus felt the surging, pure and true power crazily pouring into his body, and his strength increased by 30% in a moment. After reaching a certain height, the status of the gods progresses slowly through cultivation. The power of faith of believers is very important. The greater the number of believers, the purer and more faithful the faith, the greater the power it brings. The miracle of Zeus not only moved Chunju and her mermaid army, but also shocked countless creatures in this ocean. Somehow, countless creatures in this ocean believed in Zeus, and brought Zeus enormous divine power. Okay, pure pearl and real pearl. I feel your piety. Zeus looked calmly, watching the mermaid, and he looked at the great whirlpool in the distance. The maelstrom is still surging, as if it wants to swallow all the water in the world. Skyla hides countless treasures in her maelstrom. Let us go together. Yeah. Junju replied crisply. As you wish, my god king. Chunju replied respectfully. Zeus flew into the maelstrom with the duo. 1,000,000 kilometers away, on top of the snow mountain. A goddess with simple clothes and a face as cold as a knife, holding a silver sword, stands in the heavy snow. Behind her is the phantom of the balance, shining with silver light. The light is so blazing that people dare not look directly at it. The goddess has a stern face, her eyes are covered with white veil, and she holds a silver sword, pointing at a tree man present. Gessen by Jimu, can you plead guilty? I will not accept your judgment, Themis. My god king is Cronus, and you no longer belong to his court. Your judgment is invalid. The Trent was 10,000 meters high, standing on the mountain peak. His torso was covered with eyes, countless branches turned into wooden hands, and the extremely terrifying divine power burst out together and smashed towards the goddess. Boom! Above the mountain peak, countless piles of snow took off, and the snow rose into the air, like a white mist covering the sky and the earth. Sinner! Accept your punishment. Themis' face was as cold as ice, and then, a silver sword came out of its shell, and with the power of judgment and punishment, it struck out at the countless giant hands. Ho ho! Accompanied by the scream of the dryad, countless wooden hands were cut off by Themis at the same time, and fell to the ground, stirring up countless snow, and suddenly, the whole mountain range shook. Are you guilty, sinner? Themis held the sword and walked forward slowly. The closer she got, the Trent became terrified, and the terrifying breath of death fell around like a torrential rain. Themis approached the wooden figure, and she slowly untied the white veil over her eyes. Her astonishing beauty made the whole earth lose its color. Themis loosened the white veil from her eyes, which meant that all living beings could see her ice-like, blade-like beauty, and it also meant that the death of sinners came. The divine power frantically condensed in Themis' hands, and a terrifying breath descended from the sky. This power contained endless power of justice and judgment. All the creatures present trembled, wishing to confess their sins to the goddess immediately and pray for her forgiveness. No, before the tree man could open his mouth, he was hit by Themis' sword, and his body began to burn. The screams resounded throughout the world, and the burnt smell made everyone present want to vomit. Countless eyes stared at her desperately in the flames, and were engulfed by the flames. The raging flames burning in the heavy snow illuminated the night sky. The snow fell slowly. The goddess slowly covered her eyes again with white gauze. Another sinner has been punished. In the name of Zeus, justice between heaven and earth has been done once again. Themis looked into the endless distance. It's been a long time since I heard from Zeus. How is he? Themis is cold and arrogant in her heart. Although she misses Zeus in her heart, she never takes the initiative to contact Zeus. She stroked her flat belly slowly. Zeus, your child is still pregnant. We have already agreed that I will bring justice to the world and spread your reputation. When you challenge Cronus, I will return. At this moment, Themis felt a huge mountain collapse 1,000,000 kilometers away. This is. Themis looked into the distance. Even though she was blindfolded with white gauze, she could see 1,000,000 kilometers away. In the sea of the far west, the giant mountain named Finger of the God King collapsed. Is it Zeus? In the heavy snow, the goddess stands alone on the mountain, looking at the sea in the distance. Another 1,000,000 kilometers away, one of the 12 main gods, the wife of Pillar of the West, Iapetus, Golden Horn, Clymene, is sitting on her pure white throne. Beside him, there is a huge pillar supporting the sky, directly reaching the sky. Clymene was tall and tall, with extremely graceful posture. Her golden hair shone brightly, her eyes were cold. She was dressed in a black robe and sat on her white throne. Beside her, a huge white column stood above the earth and directly into the sky. This is the extreme west of the world, and that giant pillar is the pillar of the sky, and also her husband, the pillar of the west, Iapetus. In this god's domain, there are such pillars supporting the sky in all directions. Mother, I didn't expect you to be here. A god wearing a laurel crown and 3 torches burning behind him walked in. He bowed his head and his voice was full of respect. He is Prometheus, who is later called the Fire Thief. The god king Cronus had ordered Prometheus to destroy Zeus as early as 100 years ago. But Prometheus was afraid of fighting and didn't want to shed blood for Cronus. Luckily, Mother Clymene knew what Prometheus wanted, and she offered to go to war instead of Prometheus. But the mother did not leave for a long time. Be quiet, child, Clymene said softly, her eyes looking into the distance, thoughtful. Like her husband, Clymene is one of the 12 titans of Olympus, and her status is supreme. Son, Do you know why we live in this empty far west? For heaven's sake, mother. Not only that, said Clemene, her eyes fixed on the distance. Her voice was quiet and gentle, and also to guard the fog gate. Prometheus nodded slightly, and he looked into the distance, the huge fog gate. In the land of the far west, there is no grass and no life, and the surrounding area is covered with thick white fog, covering the sky and the sun. Looking around, except for the huge white pillar supporting the sky, there is only the fog door. Outside the fog gate, a terrifying divine power exudes. Except for the 12 titans, any living beings approaching it will explode and die. What's even more frightening is that that kind of divine power doesn't belong to this divine domain. Beyond the fog gate, there are gods. The fog door stood there for an unknown how long. The first generation of God King Uranus, the second generation of God King Cronus, billions of years have passed, and the power outside the fog gate has become stronger and stronger. Beyond the fog door, what is it? Clemene looked at the fog door and muttered to himself. Son, you only know that the God King is afraid and angry at the new god, but you don't know that the God King's greatest fear comes from outside the fog gate, which is the real source of his madness. In recent years, the King of Gods has become more and more crazy. So the real reason is here? Prometheus said. I felt the fluctuation of divine power outside the fog gate. That's why I haven't set off for a long time. Clemene said to Prometheus with a smile. But, okay, child, I know what you mean. Don't be afraid, the God King will not take his anger out on me. As long as he has a little sense, he will know that the woman needs my protection. Yes, mother. Ah, here it comes. At this moment, Qingyu's dragon cry resounded throughout the world, and a huge black pterosaur descended from the sky, and the turbulent mist was violently pushed away by the dragon's wings. Black Wing Mother, you sent it out? Prometheus shielded the violent airflow with his hand. The black pterosaur descended from the sky, its body getting smaller and smaller, and finally landed firmly on Clemene's shoulder. The black pterosaur opened its mouth, and a bloody snake eye fell into Clemene's hand. Snake eyes? Exuding powerful divine power, it should come from a very powerful beast. Where did you get it? Prometheus said. The sea of the extreme west. Clemene stared at the twitching eyeballs in his hand, his gaze was as sharp as a knife, and the terrifying divine power suddenly erupted, carrying the breath of endless death, violently sweeping away in all directions. Mother, don't do this. Prometheus was almost blown away by Clemene's divine power. He rarely saw such a quiet mother. This is the eye of Skyla. There was a battle in the far west sea, and a god killed her. Kill Skyla? Prometheus looked at the eyeball in disbelief. Skyla is the master of the maelstrom, and his divine power is unparalleled. That newborn god can kill her. Prometheus's heart was pounding, thankful that he didn't have to fight that god. Puff. Clemene squeezed the eyeball, and the green blood exploded from her hand. Her gaze returned to calm, and she stared lightly at the green blood in her hand. She has nothing to do with herself. Skyla is at most the third rank of the high god. If I kill her, it will be like a flame devouring withered grass, and a sword piercing through a veil. But her mother, Echidna, has an incomparably noble lineage, and her divine power is so powerful that even a god king should think twice. It's interesting that the new god dared to kill Skyla. Clemene looked at the fog gate in the distance, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. The fluctuation of woman's divine power has stabilized, and I can set off. Mother, I will follow you and protect you secretly. That's your freedom, child. But think before you speak, just like before crossing the abyss. You must always stare at your feet. How can your weak divine power protect me? Clemene looked at Prometheus with a smile. With a dragon cry, the black-winged dragon became extremely huge, and Clemene stepped on the dragon's horn and flew towards the sky. On the holy mountain of Olympus, a palace of pure light and shadow. The two girls stopped and looked into the distance. For one of them, the long skirt on her body exudes the light of stars, as if woven from the starry sky, and the wings behind her are as thin as onion wings. She is the younger sister of the two, the future goddess of meteors, Asteria. Another goddess is dressed in a red and black robe, with a tourmaline-like nose and ruby-like lips, delicate and beautiful. She holds a huge key in her hand. That is the source of her divine power, named key of life. She is the older sister of the two, Lito, the future goddess of nurturing and conservation. Lito sat on the ground holding the huge key, looking into the distance. She looked a little worried. What is sister worried about? Asteria came over and leaned against her sister. Starlight filled the palace. This. Lito stared blankly at the huge key in his hand. I didn't expect the source of my divine power to be this. It looks so bulky. Lito bit his lip. The source of his sister's divine power is a starry sky. The sky is full of stars, very beautiful. She is very envious. After advancing from the lower god to the middle god, all creatures will reveal their source of divine power. Sister, this one is also good. The starlight wings behind Asteria shone, and a little bit of stardust floated in the air. Mother said that the source of your divine power contains the power of nurturing, which can protect young creatures from growing up. I don't like this. Lito hesitated. I want to be like my mother. The source of her divine power is a strong beam of light. Hundreds of thousands of beams gather at one point, making the world lose its color. Or like the 12 gods, Clemene. Clemene was ordered to destroy the new god. A few days ago, she came from the far west and flew over Olympus by riding a black pterosaur. The dragon wings of Clemene covered the sky of Olympus, making Olympus as dark as the night. When she came, 100,000 golden horns sounded together, and the sound of the sacred horns resounded across the earth, and the creatures within 100,000 miles praised her prestige and divine power incomparably. This made Lito very envious. She thought Clemene was very handsome. She looked at the huge key in her arms and sighed. I heard that the reason why the God King was angry was because some believers betrayed their belief in the God King. Asteria stared at the starry sky, so I sent the goddess of prestige to destroy him. Hearing this, Lito couldn't help trembling all over. The newborn god. Lito feels his fate more and more strongly. Her destiny does not seem to be above Olympus, but has a strong relationship with that distant god. The god in the distance killed Skyla and shattered the giant mountain called the Finger of the King of God. Lito was taken aback. Skyla? Isn't she Echidna's daughter? Isn't he afraid of the great mother of monsters? Asteria nodded. Even a great god king would not easily offend Echidna. That newborn god dared to kill Skyla. Lito lowered his head, tightly hugging the key of life in his arms. She felt that her fate would be closely entangled with that god. Mount Olympus, in a huge white palace that looks like a prehistoric eggshell. In the palace, a pale and thin girl was sitting on a high chair. There is a dragon's tail behind her, and her white hair covers her eyes. Holding a paintbrush, she faces the huge canvas in front of her, sketching bit by bit. In the temple, it was pitch black. Divine power lingered around her, and countless colors illuminated the dark palace. In her painting, a young boy with blonde hair fluttering and lightning shining, stepped on the thunderclouds, and the majesty of the God King who ruled the sky, sea and earth almost burst out of the painting. This is the scene where Zeus destroys Skyla. Behind the girl, there are countless paintings. All are earth-shattering events in the history of Olympus. On the other hand, Cronus held a scythe, and the blue-black flames burned all over the world. He looked at the starry sky with firm eyes. This is a battle in which Cronus killed his father and seized the power of the God King. 1. Cronus in the rainstorm, holding a crying baby in his huge giant hands. He opened his bloody mouth wide and threw the baby into his mouth. This is the scene of Cronus devouring his own offspring. 1. Themis was standing in the palace, and the dagger in her hand pierced her eyes fiercely, and the divine blood bursting out of her eyes rushed to the sky, dyeing the sky red. There was blood on her cold face and white robe. This is the scene of Themis, one of the 12 main gods, rebelling against the court of Cronus. 1 pair, a giant spear burning with flames, pierced through a god. The god wore a crown, surrounded by huge white sea serpents, and death opened in his eyes amidst the storm. This is the scene where Cronus slays Oceanus, the god of the ocean. Intense divine power fluctuates in the painting, as if the characters in the painting are about to appear, once again performing that great or lamentable feat. Now, the girl's pen has drawn the latest scene. A strong wave of divine power emerged from the painting, and the thunder instantly illuminated the entire hall. Zeus. The girl looked at the boy in the painting and said softly, The maiden is one of the 12 main gods of Olympus and the future wife of Zeus, Mnemosyne. Under the maelstrom, a red mermaid and a white mermaid looked at the magnificent palaces around them. They are mermaid Pure Pearl and True Pearl, who accompanied Zeus to come here. Mother, Skyla was able to carve this palace out of a single mountain like emerald. Skyla's palace is in the very depths of the maelstrom. Under the ocean, it was extremely dark, but here, the crystal green light filled the bottom of the sea, and all around were white bones. A jeweled palace built on white dry bones. Countless souls and dead spirits danced around the palace, and the screams of souls resounded through the bottom of the sea. Their souls with nowhere to go after being swallowed by Skyla, imprisoned here forever. In this god's domain, there is no underworld yet. The god king was afraid of losing his authority, so he conferred only a very small number of priesthoods. And the hell of the abyss, Tartaros, is actually almost a prison, in which the enemies of the god king were imprisoned. At the same time, the god king did not create new creatures. Almost all the creatures in this world were born with the heaven and the earth, so there are very few dead creatures. The souls of the few who died have nowhere to go. In order to restore order to the world, to give the souls somewhere to go. This is why Zeus must overthrow the court of Cronus. Junju felt the terrifying resentment emanating from the palace. This resentment was even more terrifying than Skyla himself. Mom. Junju took Chunju's hand. Chunzu looked at her daughter with a smile, and turned to Zeus. Great God King, the entrance to the palace is here. We're here to guard you. Zeus nodded and stepped into the palace. Junju stared blankly at the back of Zeus entering the palace. You are restless. Chunju seemed to see what was on her daughter's mind. Yes, I. Junju twitched, her heart was beating wildly, and her face turned red instantly. She had countless things to say, but couldn't. Because. That's a big treason, it really can't, it can't. Son, do you have something to tell me? Chunju encouraged her gently. I. Junju looked at her mother, feeling extremely sad, with countless thoughts churning in her mind. Unconsciously, Junju cried, Mom, I like Zeus. The moment she said the words, Junju went back on her word. She blushed and squatted on the ground, angry and anxious in her heart, so sad that she wanted to die. I know. You know, Junju raised her head in surprise. Her mother was looking at herself tenderly. The mother's white tail is swinging in the water, white jellyfish and shells are swimming around her, and countless white pearls are floating around her. For the first time, Junju felt that her mother was so beautiful. When I was young, I was just like you. Chunju looked at the daughter with the red tail. She was full of black hair, and her eyes were tender. The daughter has really grown up. The first time I met Zeus, it was because of you. Zeus is the most beautiful boy in the world. He controls the thunder, possesses extremely powerful divine power, and exudes the kingly spirit of ruling the sky, land and sea. When I saw he fell completely in the first moment. Child, you are just like me. But, Junju felt extremely sad in her heart. She hesitated for a long time, then gritted her teeth. But mother, you are the wife of Zeus. What about me? How can I express my love to Zeus? How can I get along with you? Junju trembled more and more, tears gurgled, and drops of pure white pearls fell to the bottom of the sea. Let us go together. You are a mermaid, child. Chunju looked at Junju tenderly. Do you know what will happen if a mermaid falls in love with other creatures? What will happen? Junju looked at her mother in a daze. Mermaids have a long lifespan. After they are born, they can live for millions of years and stay young forever. However, if they fall in love, things will be different. Chunju's voice is very soft. If they fall in love with the creatures, reject the mermaid, and the mermaid will turn into white foam and disappear in the sea. If the creature the mermaid loves betrays the mermaid, then the mermaid will also turn into white foam and disappear forever. Then, Mother, I fell in love with Zeus, but you are Zeus' wife, what should I do? That is a treasonous thing. I don't want to turn into a bubble, Mother. Junju hugs Chunju, tears like rain. My child. I am not her wife. I told you before, have you forgotten? Chunju's voice was a little low. I pursued Zeus, and he agreed, and gave me 1/10,000th love. I am with him, spent 6 months of good time together. But I am not his wife, His wife is one of the 12 main gods of Olympus, Themis. Themis? Junju opened her eyes wide. You seem to have told me. Yes, I witnessed their holy marriage with my own eyes. Themis is powerful, noble, and beautiful. Her face is as sharp as an iceberg and as sharp as a knife. She holds the silver sword and the scale of judgment to judge the injustice between heaven and earth. Punish sinners. And I was just a lowly mermaid who was about to turn into a bubble. How dare I compete with the goddess and try to capture Zeus from the goddess? Listen to me, child. Shunju's tone became very solemn. She held Junju's shoulders with both hands and stared at her. Pure pearls do this only when fighting and praying. Children, we are mermaids. If we don't get what we love, we will turn into bubbles and die. It's a curse and a gift from God. Gift? Yes. I have lived for so long, and I have seen too many creatures. They have love in their hearts, but they dare not pursue it because they are afraid of rejection. In the end, timid, not daring to pursue the creatures they love, they spend their lives alone. But we are different, Junju. We are mermaids. If we don't get what we love, we will turn into bubbles and die. Is there anything more terrible than death? You are already on the verge of death. Why don't you pursue it bravely? What do you love? Jeju, be brave. If you really love the god you believe in, the great god King Zeus, show him your heart and your determination. While the two mermaids were arguing, Zeus stepped into the temple. There was a gurgling sound of water, and there was a river in the temple. The river is crystal clear, with a depth of 10,000 meters, flowing to the center of the temple. In the river, the souls of countless undead wandered in it, and the sound of their painful and desperate wailing was endless. At the bottom of the river, countless broken stones shone with crystal green light, and the rich divine power continuously turned into green drizzle, falling in the hall. What a strong divine power! This kind of rich divine power is no less than the Crimson Sea obtained before. Zeus stepped into the river and picked up a piece of gravel. The crushed stone is crystal clear, very close to the green gold stone, the source stone of divine power from outside. Divine power source stones are divided into elementary, intermediate, and advanced. If you go up to the advanced level, you will have an exclusive name. It turned out that Skyla devoured the living beings not only to absorb the power of the living beings, but also to enslave their souls here, using the pain of the souls to condense into this source stone of divine power in this river. Zeus waved his hand, and the emeralds in the river flew into his thundercloud one after another. Zeus walked along the river to the center of the temple, getting more and more amazed as he walked. The soul of the undead here is getting stronger and stronger. Every time Zeus takes a step, the wailing sound of the soul will be 3 points stronger. If there is no strong strength, he will explode and die here immediately. However, the soul of the undead condensed a more precious treasure here. Stretching for hundreds of meters, colorful corals shine in the bottom of the river. Millions of shining gold and green pearls and gems flow at the bottom of the river. A golden statue of Cronus, the god king, and a huge gemstone statue of Echidna, the mother of monsters, stand on both sides of the river. Echidna wore a crown inlaid with rubies, emeralds, and amethysts, which was extremely luxurious. Finally, there is an even larger statue of Skyla himself, made of gold, platinum, green gold, emeralds, diamonds, agate, and amber, shining in the river. These statues are not carved by living beings, but are treasures created according to the master's will after the divine power is strong enough to a certain level. Skyla is so rich. Zeus put all these treasures into his thundercloud. At this time, he has penetrated into the interior of the temple. Zeus saw a huge coffin floating above the river, surrounded by endless dead spirits hanging down to protect it. On the inner and outer coffins, there are finely carved runes and incantations. The power of the runes is as strong as a substance, surging and flowing around the inner and outer coffins, and a green ray of light shoots up into the sky. A seemingly invisible arcane wall blocked Zeus, and powerful resistance came from all directions. Zeus saw that there was a blood-red magic circle under the coffin, and the magic circle consisted of 33 small formations. Formed together, it flows slowly, and the strong bloody smell is overwhelming. Zeus called out the thunder, golden lightning shrouded his whole body, and the mighty king burst out with great momentum. A strong airflow roared above the hall, and Zeus' hands condensed into a trembling thunderbolt. Thousands of golden lights evolved in his eyes, and he suddenly looked at the magic circle. Gotcha! The magic circle shattered immediately, and the bloody gas turned into powder, flying in the hall, and the strong, outwardly repulsive resistance disappeared instantly. It's not over yet. Zeus condensed the power of the thunder in his hands, and the violent thunder made a deafening sound, just like an underwater earthquake. Then, he punched that arcane wall. Crack! With the sound of light glass shattering, a crack appeared in the transparent arcane wall. Zeus punched out again. In an instant, the arcane wall was completely shattered. The violent arcane energy turbulently flowed in the air, exuding a purple coquettish light, and the air fluctuated violently. As the arcane wall shattered, countless souls of the dead poured out of the wall, their screams resounded through the sea. In every inch of space, there seemed to be tens of thousands of dead souls swimming. Even though they were invisible, the terrifying pressure still exploded. Zeus's pupils opened slightly, and along with the terrifying soul of the deceased, there was also an incomparably pure divine power, which erupted from the coffin. Zeus stepped towards the coffin, and countless souls of the dead screamed in unison. Amidst the screams, the divine power solidified by itself, forming a dim gray bone dragon, which exploded with amazing divine power and rushed towards Zeus. Despicable beast! Zeus was surrounded by lightning, and suddenly a thunder burst out, and he punched the bone dragon. Boom! The bone dragon was shattered by the thunderbolt and turned into off-white powder. The powder did not dissipate, and it wriggled in the air, as if alive. The divine power here is already strong enough to condense into living beings by itself. Every divine power can nourish the divine power of Zeus. Zeus took the surrounding self-formed creatures of divine power into the thundercloud, and then walked to the coffin. The coffin was slowly opened, and a dense white mist rose into the sky. Zeus saw that infinite souls wandered wildly in it. Great gods! We're here, imprisoned for millions of years, millions of years. An astonishing aura and divine power of the dead erupted from the coffin, as if there were only dead spirits screaming together. The sea monster Skyla devoured us, ruthlessly took our bodies, and put our souls into this coffin of dead souls, and condensed divine power from our pain for her to enjoy. Gods and gods. Millions of undead souls rose from the dead man's coffin, and they condensed into an old man. His face was sad, and he looked at Zeus with pleading eyes. Every pore and every inch of his skin was undead. Great, most exalted, most merciful God, can you save us? We can no longer bear this pain. The pain that death's chest brings us is worse than death. And our souls will never escape. We ask for your mercy. Zeus sighed. At this moment, there is no Hades between heaven and earth, and his brother Hades is still sleeping in the belly of God King Cronus. The souls of the dead have nowhere to go. Even if they are free, they have nowhere to go. They can only wander helplessly between heaven and earth. But that's better than suffering in dead man's chest, too. In fact, Zeus could also keep this bottle of soul-gathering coffin, and use this group of undead to continuously generate stones of divine power for himself. But that is not the way of kings. I am the future God King. I am the king who rules the sky, sea and earth, and all the creatures in the world are my subjects. For those who disrespect me, I will use thunder to make them feel the wrath of the God King. And how can I let my own people suffer, who honor me? With the power of thunder and a compassionate heart, to rule this God's domain, that is the true king's way, and only then can I show my glory. It is not the work of a king to torture the souls of innocents and feed on their pain. These souls deserve to be liberated, Zeus asked himself. Yes, you are free, Manuo Zhao. Thousands of golden lights shone in the eyes of Zeus, and they evolved into a colorful rainbow bridge. Thunder erupted all over Zeus, and phantoms of swords, shields, crowns and scepters emerged at the same time, and the surging and shocking power of the king enveloped the ocean. Zeus's divine breath was close to perfection, and he tapped lightly on the coffin of souls with his fingers. Click! The soul-gathering coffin instantly shattered. Become free. Free, free. As if all the dense fog in the world gathered again, the extremely thick and almost substantial white fog rushed out of the death's coffin violently. They shouted and screamed frantically, and rushed towards the ocean. Millions of gray-white souls rushed upwards from the bottom of the ocean, and countless creatures watched this shocking scene in horror. Between heaven and earth, there is darkness. Countless gray-white dots rushed straight into the sky. Like a storm, they densely covered the sky, covering the eyes. Thanks to our Savior. We will always remember your exploits. The voices of countless souls praising Zeus resounded across the ocean.